Shortly after reviewing the Epiphone Korina Explorer, it's time to do the other guitar, the Flying V. And my god, this case is pink and it's overwhelming my senses. Here we are in the official Epiphone website again, and under electric guitars we find the Inspired by Gibson Custom collection. We don't have to scroll very far to find the guitar in question, the Korina Flying V. Here it is, priced at €1,159. That's about $1,300 in Europe. And I'm just gonna scroll nice and easy so you see the gorgeous official photos. And I can already tell you the camera loves this sort of finish, the aged gloss. Here's some photos of the case and the official listing text that has been written about 3 or 4 years ago. You can pause and read it. Also in here there's the link to the official video by Epiphone comparing the V and the Explorer. I'm gonna include it for the sake of preservation.
Dinesh here from Epiphone, and we're here to take a quick look at the new 1958 Korina Flying V and Explorer. In close collaboration and partnership with the Gibson Custom shop, we present these exquisite recreations of these highly sought-after vintage guitar models, bringing you many of the fine details of the real deal at a much more affordable price point, giving everyone access to tap into one of the most historical moments of Gibson guitars. When we think of Gibson or Epiphone, we usually think of Les Pauls and SGs, forgetting the excellent designer collection models that showcase us pushing the boundaries of the usual associated guitar formats and designs. Korina in general is usually a lighter hardwood, identified with a finer grain in appearance and tone-wise providing a much warmer experience, defined lows, mids, and overall sustain. If you're looking for an excellent V or Explorer with this premium hardwood, without the hefty price tag of vintage or custom shop one, and still gives you an incredible playing experience, look no further. Take advantage of an all Korina neck, body, premium electronics, pickups, and it's a great way to add a little spice and edge to your current collection. These iconic shapes have rocked the world for decades, and it's your chance to own a piece of history. In this video, we'll look at these new models as well as touch on similar offerings in the Epiphone line. Let's hear a little more of these guitars. Now that we've heard these guitars, let's go over some specs and features on both these models. You get an all Korina body and neck, and as you can see on the grain here, there are no veneers or wraps used. We also have a long neck tenon on these models, which means more wood is used to attach the neck to the body, providing even further sustain and resonance. We've got all gold hardware for classic looks, Epiphone Deluxe tuners, a powerful Burstbucker 2 in the neck, and a Burstbucker 3 in the bridge, providing all the tone you need. Premium hand-wired electronics, including CTS potentiometers, Mallory capacitors, Switchcraft 3-way selector switch, and 1/4-inch output jack for no compromising your signal path or for onboard tone shaping. Deluxe hardshell case included to keep it safe for storage and transport. And remember, with Epiphone, you've got choices. So if you're looking for something different, check out these other models to choose from. In the original designer collection, we've got these same guitars in a more straight-ahead traditional configuration and an even more accessible price point, featuring a mahogany neck and body, Epiphone Deluxe tuners, ProBucker pickups, and premium CTS pots. You just can't go wrong with the classics. And then there's the modern designer collection. Perhaps you like these models, but need some modifications, like locking tuners, coil splitting, hot-rodded pickups, slim taper necks, and eye-catching finishes. This collection is here to suit a wide variety of playing styles to fit the guitarists of today. So if you need to cover a lot of ground with just one instrument, this collection is for you.
In my previous video I have demonstrated the Korina Explorer. Apart from the Laurel fingerboard and the pickups, which is a personal preference, not a con, I loved it. However, I don't think this was a successful run for Epiphone due to a couple of reasons. I don't have their numbers, but I have been watching the Korina guitars ever since they were launched in early 2023. These guitars were never in high demand apart from the launch, before people found out about the new insane prices. You see, these were some of the first expensive inspired by Gibson Custom models, alongside the 1979 Adam Jones and the Greenie. And that was the first of many mistakes. I reviewed the Explorer about a month ago, and as of right now, late 2025, it's finally discontinued. Why is this a good thing? Well, allow me to explain. Some of us bought these two guitars, or at least one of them at launch, for the initial retail price, which was about €1,500 or $1,700 in Europe. For comparison, the expensive guitars at that time, like the Matt Heafy Origins Custom, retailed for about €1,000 or $1,100. That is a huge price gap, so the shops bought and stocked the Korinas at a high price and had to ask for the maximum retail to break even. A couple of months later, Epiphone corrected their prices to about $1,200 and even lower in some shops. Unfortunately, the damage was already done. The pretty looks, hard shell cases and upgraded electronics were not enough to persuade people to choose the Korinas over the regular inspired by Gibson Ebony V and Explorer. Here's where I think Epiphone made a mistake. They produced way too many of the guitars. The Korina should have been a limited run of 1958 guitars each or something, available for a year with a high price. And this brings us to the good thing about the guitars being discontinued. People that bought them expensive can finally ask for a decent price to sell them. We are not going to make a profit, maybe not even break even, but at least get something back. Luckily for those of you that didn't have the chance to buy these, they're still available at some shops and you can definitely find them on the second-hand market. And you can also go for an alternative, which is the regular inspired by Gibson Epiphone Explorer and Flying V in the ebony colors, and I'm gonna discuss the differences later in that video. And one more thing that I'm gonna briefly discuss is this was a weird time for Epiphone, the introduction of the inspired by Gibson Custom collection. It was a huge gap in the prices between them and the regular inspired by Gibson models. It happened after COVID. People were already kind of freaked out by the new prices, and all of a sudden they came out swinging with this expensive collection. And I gotta be honest, that's kind of a shame, because I think that the Epiphone Korina Flying V and the Explorer are some of the best guitars that Epiphone has ever produced. They vary from one to another. I had the pleasure of checking out 3 Explorers and 2 Flying Vs, and they're not all the same, like most Chinese made guitars. I'm not saying that some of them are bad, I'm just saying that some of them are better, and if you have the chance to check them out in person before buying, you should do that. I'm gonna tell you which one you should go for later in the video. For now, let's check out the spec of the Flying V. Starting with the body specifications, of course we have aged gloss finish and solid Korina material. Next up, for the neck specs, we have medium jumbo frets, Laurel fingerboard, which I don't really like, and we have a long neck tenon, Graphtec nut, and the 1959 Flying V profile. For the electronics, we have a set of Burzbucker 2 and 3 pickups, Switchcraft 3-way switch, Switchcraft output jack, CTS pots, and a Maverick capacitor, a single one. For the hardware, we have the ABR1 style bridge, all sorts of other stuff that you can pause and read, dual action truss rod Epiphone deluxe tuning machines, and we have a beautiful hard shell case. The headstock has a nice logo to it. We have the number for the case and 1046 gauge strings. This is a brand new guitar, so not much to do. I'm gonna oil the fingerboard and I have to take off the pickguard so I can remove the protective film. It's a bit fiddly. It's gonna be a bit fiddly and I have to polish these pickup covers because of the glue residue. One huge disadvantage of this sort of pickguard is that if you wanna get any work done to the electronics, the 3-way switch, the pots, you have to undo all the screws and the thumb wheel and the strut, while also messing up your setup. The Explorer doesn't have this problem, as you can see. Another issue is that I cannot unscrew the thumb wheel from the strut, but I had to take it all out, so I'm gonna measure it anyway. It's about 30 millimeters. One of the cables going to the output jack is way too short, so I'm not gonna pull up the pickguard way too much, but as you can see, there's some protective film underneath for both volume pots. There's some for the tone pot, there's the Maverick capacitor, the L-shaped Switchcraft 3-way switch, and I'm gonna try and give you a close-up of that Maverick capacitor in one of the pots. All of the electronics are mounted to the pickguard, giving us a chance to check out that Korina cavity. Some chips here and there, but overall it's a well done routing job. Here are the cables for the pickups and the ground wire going to the struts of the bridge. Here's the routing for the output jack. Pickups out of the way show us the promised long neck tenon. Here's the cavity of the bridge pickup. The QR sticker in here as well, and unlike the Explorer, the pieces of the body go like this, but in both directions, so we can clearly see the separation line of the body. Here's the Burzbucker 2 in the neck position and the Burzbucker 3, both made in 2023, somewhere in early to mid 2023 to be exact. And I had to fiddle way too much with the pickguard to remove all of the protective film. I had to take off the thumb bleeders or the dowel pointers because it's well stuck under there and it scratches against the caps and it's awful. The Burzbucker 3 in the bridge is at 869, the Burzbucker 2 is at 826, and the middle position for both pickups is 422. This is the ABR1 style bridge, which is pretty much the locked on with the individual saddles, just with the thinner struts, and it weighs 49 grams. Now obviously the bridge and tailpiece situation is different on the Explorer. You can see the traditional bridge and a tailpiece combination. Here we have the bridge and the strings through body. And for someone like me who plays mainly Les Paul guitars, this is a bit of uncomfortable because I'm used to resting my palm on the tailpiece. There is also a little bit of a difference in the sound as well and the sustain. The Korina wood is nicely selected with the grain going in the same direction, nice and smooth edges on the body, nice satin finish, which I prefer over the high gloss guitars because high gloss makes them look like a kitchen table. So yeah, I really dig the finish. Now this guitar has a white pickguard. If you wanna convert it to black, you have to keep in mind that you have to change the plate for the output jack as well. This is a Switchcraft output jack, this is a Switchcraft 3-way L-shaped switch, volume for the neck, volume for the bridge, and a master tone. What about the neck? We have a long neck tenon as I demonstrated and a one-piece Korina all the way to up here. Then the headstock is a separate piece. One of the things that I initially didn't like about the guitar is that in the specs they stated that the fingerboard is laurel instead of rosewood. And on the Explorer it does resemble rosewood. Here it's much more streaky on the Flying V, and to be honest, with time I kind of started to like this fingerboard. Regardless if I like it or not though, this is supposed to be a 58 guitar or a presentation of it, so why not use rosewood? Other than that, 24.75 inch scale length, 12 inch radius, and these are medium jumbo frets. The fretwork on this particular guitar is nicely done. I've seen worse on others, but overall it's better than the Inspired by Gibson series. Acrylic dots, and I really dig this board. Graphtec nut, I have to apply some Tune-It paste later. Flying V headstock with the raised modern Epiphone logo. This seems a bit plasticky and fragile, so you have to be careful when restringing on or wiping down the headstock not to catch on any of the leathers and break it. I'm also digging the aged gloss finish on this black veneer on the Korina headstock. It is really a beautiful guitar in person and I like the tuners. This is the cover for the truss rod, 3 screws, 2-ply. Speaking of, here's what the truss rod cavity looks like, a two-way dual action truss rod using a 4mm Allen wrench to adjust it. Measurements of the neck. The nut is 43mm wide or 1.69 inch. The 5th fret is at 47.8mm or 1.88 inch. The 12th fret is at 52.9 or almost 53mm. Thickness at the 1st fret 22.5mm or 0.88 inch. It's already thick as the Explorer. The 5th fret is at 23.5mm or almost an inch at 0.92. And a bit thinner than the Explorer at 25mm or under an inch at the 12th fret. We have the metric spacing between the pickups at 60.8mm or 2.39 inches. The thickness of the body is 39.5mm or 1.55 inch. And here is what the struts going to the body of the guitar look like. It's ABR1 style, but it has metal inserts. 12-inch radius as promised, and here's what the 1958 neck profile looks like, nice and rounded off on both the 1st and the 12th frets. Here's the back of that gorgeous guitar. Obviously you can see that it's a two-piece body with a separation line down the middle, has that same aged gloss finish like the top, and here are the ferrules for the string through body configuration. Careful with this when restringing the guitar because usually they get loose over time. And this is a strap button here, another over here. And something else I've noticed, the neck construction, it's not a heel. It sits inside of a sort of a pocket that is the back. You can see the piece here, and the neck is a bit lower like that. That gives us a good high fret access. And here is a side view of the guitar, and the lower side of it features this rubber piece that is recessed into the body in a separate cavity. Other than looking cool, this does provide some grip on the thigh when you're playing sitting down. Not as much as I would like to be playing it in a regular position, but it does provide grip. And I like the fact that in the body it's not just a stuck-on piece there. Here's the back of that chunky 58 neck. I like the fact that you can see the grain of it. It is solid because it's a one-piece Korina, at least all the way to here, where you can see the separation line between it and the separate piece for the headstock. They are well matched on some guitars, on other you can see the difference like that. On my Explorer, for example, you cannot see a separation line. On the back of the headstock there's the Epiphone and Gibson Custom logo, the collaboration, handcrafted in China sticker that you should remove, the back of those Epiphone Deluxe tuners, and the serial number which reads 230515, meaning that it's made in 2023, the 5th month, and the 15 is the code for the Qingdao Chinese factory. Now both guitars feature well selected woods, but as I already mentioned, they are not all made equally. For example, the Flying V is pretty good, but I think that the Explorer is the better one out of the two, which is not the case for all of them because I've seen two more Explorers which were not better than the Flying V. On this Explorer you cannot see a separation line on the back of the headstock. The Laurel is better selected to resemble Rosewood, although I like the one on the V because of the streaks. The pickups on the Explorer seem to be less squeaky than the ones on the Flying V. They sound a bit different as well. I prefer this configuration over this for the bridge and the tailpiece. If you have to choose between these two guitars, it comes down to your preference of a bridge and a tailpiece. Of course, the shape of both guitars. The V is hard to play sitting down if you're not used to it. They're both gorgeous guitars. The shape of the body makes them feel a bit different as well. The V has better high fret access, so I suggest you try these two side by side before choosing. I'm gonna do the same setup as the Explorer with the same 1046 gauge GHS boomer strings, so we can do a proper comparison. So we have one latch, a second locking one, a leather handle, a third latch, and the Gibson Epiphone Custom logo. A hinge here, another one here, a third one. Let's check out the interior of the case. Here is what it looks like without the guitar. It's pretty pink as I already mentioned, but it's a perfect fit for it, unlike the Explorer. Here is the pocket for accessories. Here we have some silica gel, the key for it, and the usual Epiphone stickers. Both guitars are pretty lightweight, but the V is considerably lighter at a little over 6 pounds. The Explorer is at 6.5, and now let's hear them. Okay, which one should you get? There are a couple of things that you need to consider: the comfort when playing, the bridge and tailpiece combination, and desirability, which affects the resale value. First of all, the comfort. Both guitars are mainly intended for playing standing up. Both are incredibly light, at well under 7 pounds. The V is lighter and provides better high fret access. However, the Explorer is more comfortable for playing sitting down, even though it's slightly heavier. My second point is the one that tips me towards the Explorer. Yes, I play sitting down, but it's not that. It's the configuration of a bridge and a tailpiece. I'm used to playing guitars that have a tailpiece, and the string through body configuration of the Flying V throws me off a bit. Makes it harder for me to adjust my palm on the bridge when there's no tailpiece to feel around. Yes, I'm sure there's some getting used to that. I can get used to it, but I'm not sure I want to. My last argument, desirability. I know it's close, but in my opinion the Explorer is the more desirable guitar and the easier sell. Mine sold almost immediately after I posted it. I had to ask the buyer to wait so I can finish this video. And now, after all these arguments, let's discuss the alternative. Now let's briefly discuss the alternative to the Epiphone Korina Flying V, and it's none other than the regular inspired by Gibson Epiphone Flying V Ebony. Here's a new wonderful tool in the Epiphone website to compare 2 or 3 guitars, and here we can see the huge price gap between them, almost double for the Korina. Even if you manage to find one at a discount, it's still way more money than the regular Epiphone inspired by Gibson Ebony. Burzbucker 3, Burzbucker 2 pickups versus Probucker 3 and Probucker 2. The Korina has a Switchcraft output jack and a Switchcraft 3-way switch. The Ebony has the regular Epiphone ones. The hard shell case is beautiful and included for the Korina guitars. It's optional for the Ebony, and trust me, it's hard to find a Flying V case. We have aged gloss versus high gloss, solid Korina versus mahogany, ABR1 style bridge versus the Epiphone lock tone tunematic. Other noticeable differences is the neck construction. We have Laurel fingerboards for both guitars, medium jumbo frets for both, but we have Korina for the neck and a long neck tenon for the Korina versus a regular set neck for the Ebony. 58 Flying V neck profile versus slim taper C, a slightly thinner for the Ebony. Overall they may look similar, but they're quite different from each other. The good news is that a lot of shops still have the Korina guitars if you prefer them over the alternative. Now might be the best time to get one of them. Why would you want one over the Ebony inspired by Gibson Explorer and the V? The Korinas are at least a pound lighter, and I think the satin finish looks much better over the high gloss. The inspired by Gibson Custom treatment is much better, fit and finish, and the fretwork. The hard shell cases are a big plus. Overall, the Korinas are a much better package, even though they're a bit more expensive. As usual, I gave you all the info, now it's up to you to make up your own goddamn mind.